Hi, y'all. Thanks for joining us today, and welcome to our fifth webinar in TrustHub's new webinar series. My name is Kelly Smeltzer, and I am an account manager for TrustHub. I will be honest, this is my first webinar, and if I sound a little nervous throughout this video, it's probably because I am, but I know we're going to get through it together. Today's topic examines the financial decisions of implementing smart devices and the questions that may come along with it, such as, what devices should you use? What properties should I implement this at? Where should I expect to save money? Joining me today in this interactive exchange is Kerry Frieden, our Director of Sales. I will start by turning the conversation over to him.
Hi, thanks, Kelly. Like she said, my name is Kerry Frieden. I'm the Director of Sales here at TrustHub. And in case you aren't familiar with the TrustHub platform, we're a facilities IoT solution purpose-built for student housing, senior living, residential, and commercial MDUs. Core to our offering is our software platform designed to manage multiple smart devices, pushing alerts to whom you want, when you want. Most of our clients use our services to reduce cost, improve operations, and increase their overall NOI. Joining me in our conversation, you've already met, is one of our account managers, Kelly Smeltzer. I wanted Kelly here with me today because of her experience with student properties. Not only was she a student resident on student properties, but she also worked in their office dealing with the students and their parents and all the common issues that may have occurred. She can help keep me in check today for anything that I might say about our product that doesn't align with the real day-to-day. Right, Kelly?
Absolutely. But I didn't just work in the office. I was also part of an on-call and turn maintenance team. And as we talk about these smart devices today, I can verify that using them would have saved direct and indirect costs.
Perfect. Well, let's start by talking about smart devices real quick. So smart devices are exploding in multifamily. And what is a smart device? Well, smart devices are pieces of equipment, tools, fixtures, and other devices that are connected to the internet. Sometimes they exclusively function as a nice resident amenity, bringing the modern Jetson household features to the residents. But other times they provide useful, meaningful, and sometimes critical data through actionable alerts. Kelly, do you know who the Jetsons are?
Yes, Carrie, I know who the Jetsons are. And while we're at it, please know Back to the Future references. When it comes to multifamily, there are so many smart devices, and these include things such as thermostats, locks, occupancy sensors, flood sensors, door and window sensors, light switches, carbon monoxide and smoke alarm alert sensors, and even window shades. But I also want to point out that the industry of smart devices is expanding so fast, and there are always new ones coming out.
That's a great point Kelly brought up. With all the new devices that are coming out, the question we get asked is, how does a property owner decide what to install or when to install them? And I guess at the risk of sounding cliche, is it always smart to install smart devices? So when we see our clients making these decisions, we see them basing it on four different scenarios. One, will it improve operations? This could be a big driver. Will it improve the operations, and by how much? Two, will it reduce the resident touch points? Now, in this new reality that we're in, these tools can allow for more effective remote work, limiting the apartment visits by your team. Three, the third category of decision making is, will it increase their NOI through expense reduction? Is it going to help them save money, or is it going to help them make additional revenue? And then the fourth category that they explore is resident amenity. Does the market drive or require that they put this in to get the leases signed? Well, sometimes the decision in any one of these four categories is so strong that the decision is so strong that they may decide to implement this even if there's not a great return on investment, or if it's longer than they would normally do, or they just can't figure out how to calculate what the return on investment is. But in today's conversation, what we're going to be focusing on is how to determine what the ROI might be on a smart device installation. That's why we're here.
Gary, I know we actually have quite a few people on this call today. And from the people that registered, it looks like there's a good cross section of property management here, representing corporate and regional management, our frontline workers at the properties. And I believe we also have a few national facility directors joining us today. So I'm just going to go ahead and ask the question in case everyone isn't as well versed on the financial side terms. Can you explain what ROI is and why it's important for today's call?
Sure. So ROI simply stands for return on investment. It's the financial decision that drives a purchase. If you spend $10,000 on a project, what is the payback on that or the yield on that $10,000 investment? Sometimes something that takes, let's say, 5 years to pay back, for example, has approximately a 20% annual return. Now, as it pertains to calculating the ROI on smart devices, we're going to look at each of the components of a smart device installation project, discuss the cost of those components. We'll add those together and you have the total project cost. Then to measure the return, we're going to examine the savings or revenue that you would achieve on each of these different types of devices. Make sense?
Got it. Cost first, then how much it will bring in or save, calculate the return.
You got it. Perfect. So let's jump in first with the project installation cost. The first component you need for a project like this is device connectivity. Internet is always required, and how these devices talk to each other and talk back to the internet is what connectivity is all about. There's two ways to achieve connectivity. Type 1 is a mesh network across the whole community where the smart devices work together to form a mesh communication network. The other type 2, is the creation of secondary networks. And the creation of secondary networks, every apartment unit has its own network created through a hub or gateway device. Now, on the first type, the type 1 mesh network, it's far more economical because a lot of times we find that in student properties and in senior living, they already have managed internet across their property that provides the perfect infrastructure for creating the mesh network. In the mesh network, all of the devices work in concert to create the communication between the devices. For example, a leak that you might be having in unit 203 creates an alert, and that bounces off a light switch in unit 303 to make it back to the gateway to create then an alert back to the maintenance team, either an email or an SMS message to say there's a leak in this unit. I know that sounds complicated, but all of that actually happens in milliseconds. Now, to create that mesh network, what we have to do is install a gateway typically per building. And we only need one internet access point per building typically to achieve that.
You know, most of my clients already have that internet connectivity on their properties. I think over time, the whole world is getting more connected. And if you don't have it today, you're going to have it soon. Can you describe the cost of a mesh network?
Sure. It depends on the ultimate number of gateways that we end up installing, but typically we get about one gateway for every 15 to 20 apartment units. And the cost per gateway is about $150 to $250 each.
Gotcha. So you mentioned that there were two different types of ways to set this up besides the mesh network. What is the other one?
Sure. The other way is the secondary network per apartment unit. So in this instance, instead of putting one gateway per building, you get one gateway or hub device for every single apartment unit. And the resident is able to access that directly into the unit. Now, it does put the property owner more front and center in the tech business, and it does come with a greater installation cost. The equipment alone, it adds an additional $150 to $250 per unit.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up. So the cost of installing a mesh network is 1/10 of the cost of installing a secondary network on a per apartment basis. Are there any downsides to using the mesh network you think we need to mention?
It comes down to the client's objectives. Most of our clients are focused on the facilities management components of smart devices because there's a faster return on investment. The mesh network is perfect for that. But let's go ahead and move on now to device costs. What is a property going to spend on devices now that they have connectivity? So Kelly, can you tell us what some of your clients are buying and give us an idea of those costs?
Yes. So as I mentioned before, there are so many devices out there. When my clients are first starting out, we almost always start with a thermostat or a thermostat lock combo. Depending on the property and the pain points they may express to us, we'll move into various sensors to try and solve those specific issues they're talking about. As you can imagine, device costs can vary greatly, but I do have a generic sample I can give you on our popular devices. Thermostats are going to be about 100 to 250 each, locks 150 to 500 each, or sensors 30 to 75 each. I do want to point out that the devices represent a one-time cost.
But what about installation costs?
So with installation of most of these devices, they can be handled in-house. During my time on site, I did help maintenance do everything from make keys, work on HVAC units, deal with floods, lock changes, and even block plumbing issues. You name it, I unfortunately got my hands a little dirty. With my Trust Hub clients, many of them will install the thermostat or lock themselves. However, we still come out and install the gateways to connect them to that network and pair them with all the devices, creating that connectivity needed for the devices.
Perfect. And now what about any monthly cost or ongoing expenses to managing the devices?
Just getting to that. So there are some device companies that sell proprietary equipment. And when you purchase their locks, thermostats, sensors, etc., the only way for you to get use of their data is to subscribe to their exclusive platform. And this normally comes with an annual or monthly license fee. With Trust Hub, we focus our integration on using devices that are open source so that all of your smart devices can be on one central platform. Of course, we do have a monthly fee for our services, which can vary depending on the number of devices you have us managing. We charge per month a monthly fee, and it costs less than a cup of coffee. But what our clients like the most about us is that we are device agnostic. Even if we don't have a particular device yet, as long as it's open source, we have developers on 3 different continents just waiting to integrate for you.
Perfect. So a quick rehash on the math for those of you who are keeping up with it. With equipment installed in-house and the monthly fees, the 2-year cost can range from $200 to $500 depending on the project. That's a safe number to use for an average property. Of course, we do have companies that work with us in volume where it is less, and again, it just depends on the size of the project. So now that we have a ballpark range for project cost, to determine the ROI, we need to understand savings or net operating income. Now, as I mentioned before, there are 4 drivers that motivate a property owner to install smart devices. And again, those are improved operations, reduce resident touch points, increase NOI or reduce expenses, and resident amenity. So first, I'd like to talk a little bit about resident amenity. So the question is, by installing smart devices, can you actually raise the rents? And what smart devices would you need to install to attract residents that are willing to pay more because of it? Now, this question is easy to pose, but it's actually difficult to answer because it's going to vary greatly between markets and submarkets. The question can best be answered by your people with feet on the ground through careful comparison of the market conditions.
So more plainly put, it sounds like you're saying sometimes you can raise rents and then sometimes you can't.
Exactly. And that's why we leave this question up to our customer to determine if there is an ROI that can be achieved through rent increases. So the question that we're left with is, why are you putting in a system? Are you putting in the devices for facilities maintenance, or for resident amenity, or for both? So for today's exercise, our financial models for return on investment are going to be mostly and strongly based upon facilities maintenance. So how do we offer we do offer amenities-based devices. And we also feature a resident app for control, convenience, and monitoring. But when we're looking at the facilities maintenance opportunities, what we're doing with those different savings opportunities is we're breaking them into two different categories to explain to you today. Type 1 is direct cost savings, where we're actually saving direct costs that you can measure. And then type 2, indirect cost savings, where we are trying to calculate how much is saved through these devices in the software costs. But all dollars from both of these categories go straight to the bottom line and contribute to your NOI.
So getting back to that ROI formula, let's cover some examples of direct cost savings. We see amazing opportunities with this when a property pays for all or part of the electric in a unit. My clients are all jumping on this low-hanging fruit. Smart thermostats can be used in so many ways to reduce HVAC runtime or create set point limits with scheduling, which can provide big savings results. The typical results we are seeing in energy savings are 20 to 25%. But let's not also forget the indirect cost savings. When I was on site, the number of times we would deal with a frozen HVAC that had burnout because no one called us or told us it wasn't cooling, or even the number of times we found organic growth as a result of running the HVAC with the windows open. My maintenance team had such a pet peeve when the residents would constantly set the fan to on or off instead of auto, which increases the humidity in the unit. And I think all of us on this call probably know what kind of problems high humidity causes. With smart devices, these problems can be substantially reduced or even eliminated completely. Our smart alerts allow for your maintenance team to get a text letting them know if a unit isn't cooling, or if the runtime is maybe a little too long, or even if there's high humidity. Your maintenance team will get to do predictive maintenance, not preventative maintenance, on units that are likely failing. This really allows for you to repair them before they break down, instead of having to replace the entire equipment and give you lower maintenance expense. In the area of improved savings, smart locks can save your maintenance team that Friday or Saturday night hassle of helping students get back into their buildings when they lose their fob or keys by giving them a one-time code that allows them back in. So that way, the issue of replacement can be handled during normal working hours, and this kind of keeps your maintenance team down on overtime and aggravation. Speaking of that, I have a great story. When I was on call during turn one year, I was watching the Bachelorette finale, and I ended up having to miss it because I had not one, but 2 lockouts during this. It was horrible.
Oh gosh, that's really horrible, Kelly. We're so sorry that happened to you. But aside from reality TV shows, if you want to call them that, I did hear a stat the other day that on maintenance calls, they can be reduced by 18 minutes on average if they don't have to go retrieve a key. Is that true?
That can be absolutely true. When I was on site, there's a 5-minute trip back to the office. Someone asks you a question, then needs a package. You get a call, a minute here, and even there, and then you're going to have a 5-minute trip back. 18 minutes or gone, or minute 18 or more minutes are gone. Honestly, just thinking about that statistic, can you imagine how much time and money you could save if you multiply your number of weekly work orders by 18 minutes? Like, that's insane.
It is insane. So I think this is all very useful information for our attendees today. And I think it's going to be easy to see. It's easy to see there's a great deal of opportunity to saving money with these devices. But back to the original question in which all of these people signed up for, how do you calculate the return on investment on smart devices? So we have developed our own return on investment calculator that we work with clients to determine best fit. And what we find when you let us run analysis on your properties is that you're going to have a handful of properties that are slam dunks. It makes absolute sense that you want to implement these properties yesterday because the data is so compelling. You're going to have a handful of properties where it's an easy layup. It makes sense. The financial model is there. The payback is going to be brief, and it's going to be a good place to put your money. And then the third group where it may or may not necessarily scream to rolling it out today. But what our team loves to do is work with our customers to run these reports shoulder to shoulder in their creation to see if the timing is right. So what we have on screen now is an example of one we created recently for one of our clients. They paired us up with their utility billing company, the company that divides up their electric bills, pays their water bills, all that kind of stuff. And we were able to get all of the resident utility bills and all of the property utility bills, apply different savings models to the previous 12 months. We did all the legwork for this. We love to do this. And it helped us identify all of these direct cost savings. But what we also do on our end is we identify indirect cost savings where we can help improve the ROI calculator. And we look at factors such as overtime saved and units where we helped avoid remediation work and other saved time factors that are real money savings factors. The data was so strong that we're now running an additional 12 properties on that account.
When we run these for my clients, it's super compelling. It's easy to tell which property you should, and then maybe you shouldn't right now. But one question I get a lot is, how does the property decide on the timing? And with all these changes going on in technology, how do you future-proof your spend?
That's a great question. So in terms of future-proofing, this may sound like a bit of a commercial, but this is exactly what the TrustHab platform was built for. We're equipment agnostic. Your equipment will work on our platform today and tomorrow.
Speaking of the platform, when I worked at the property level, the last thing we wanted to do was tire our people down with additional tasks of going to look at this report or even that report. With the TrustHab platform, you can put all of your smart devices in the same platform. And because we utilize exception-based alert reporting, you design the rules in which your people are alerted to. So that way you're only looking at the platform if there's an issue or an opportunity.
That's a great point on the ease of use. So with many of the ROI models we create, our clients are seeing opportunities for payback in as little as 9 months on the all bills paid properties and 12 to 24 months on the partial bill paid properties. And we would love to run a set of reports for anyone listening here today to help you determine which of your properties are right for this.
So just want to do a quick recap. We've covered project costs, shown the opportunities for savings, and payback can be 9 months or 12 to 24, depending how the property is set up. I think it's probably time to move along to the Q&A portion of the webinar. There's still time to submit your questions using the Q&A feature on your screen below. So we'll give you guys a minute or two just to put those in.
Looks like we have 4 questions.
Okay. Okay, so I'll do the first one. I'll read out the first one. It asks, you talk a lot about analysis on student properties. Can you do this for multifamily?
I'll answer that one. Yes, absolutely. We can do this on multifamily, but the return on investment equation is a little bit different. So in multifamily, we look to see more return from the indirect cost savings, which we talked about with the locks and those types of scenarios, the 18 minutes saved. And there's a larger focus on the resident amenity benefit to create rent increases. That's how we help you understand the ROI. So let me go to the second question here. What if we don't have time to install the devices but want them right away? Is this something TrustHab can do? Kelly?
I'll take that one. We have a list of national installation companies that work in multifamily and student, and we can execute this pretty quickly. Although most of our clients tend to install the thermostat themselves, I've done it. It typically takes less than 10 minutes, but the third-party installation is still an option. Let's see, I'll try to read out the next one. What if our property doesn't have internet throughout?
I got that one. So internet or a wireless network is a requirement. Now, we've had many clients come to the realization that it's only a matter of time before they would need to have internet throughout the property, and that this was the perfect time to do it. However, if you don't want to put internet throughout, we do have cellular enabled gateway devices, so internet would not be required.
Gotcha. All right, and then I'll let you do the honors as the last question answer. What if it is a longer payback, but the market is demanding smart apartment features?
Okay, great question. So we're seeing this more and more where smart device projects are being implemented because the market is demanding it. And even if there's a longer return on investment, it's just a more compelling event. This is the way everything is headed, and we're seeing property owners convert their properties just to remain more competitive. One of my clients the other day that pulled the trigger on it said, you know, it was just with us. It was not a matter of if we were going to do it. It was a matter of when. So they wanted to take advantage of all that's going on right now to move forward on a project like this. So I don't see any more questions. And those are all the questions that we have. And so I guess this concludes our webinar. If you're interested in getting a free analysis on your properties, please contact us at the contact@trusthab.com. And please check out our website. We have a number of use cases that show how we're saving money across the country for our properties, how we're helping them reduce their cost and increase their NOI. And lastly, keep an eye out for details on our next webinar, and we hope you'll join us for that one as well. Thank you all very much today, and thank you, Kelly. Great job. Not nervous at all.
Just a little bit.